And then my dad used to always say, kids, remember, all you have to do to drift is nothing. And he used to say that phrase, and it just really got into me that any of us have to do to drift, whether it's in our faith. You don't even have to do something really bad to drift. Do nothing.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Christy Wright Show, where faith meets personal development so you can have a bigger faith and a better life. I'm so excited because today we are talking about 5 signs that you might be getting off track. This is good to know so you don't get off track. And then later on in the show, I get to sit down with my good friend and brilliant Bible teacher and founder of A21, Christine Caine. And we're going to talk about her new book, How Did I Get Here? And we're going to talk about some really cool wisdom she has about how she has done the things that she's done in her life. And it's going to encourage you and me, and it's going to be awesome. But first, let's talk about these 5 signs that you might be getting off track. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when I am working on something or I'm sensing that I'm facing obstacle after obstacle, I start to wonder, am I just doing the wrong thing? Like, is this one of those obstacles that I should push through and knock down the wall and make it happen? Or is this a red flag that God is trying to put a barrier up to protect me? Saying, hey, don't go down this path. This is the wrong way. And sometimes it's hard to discern the difference. When you think about it, understanding if we're on the right path to where we want to go is a big deal. I've heard Dave Ramsey use the example of just being a slight amount off track can get you to a very different destination. Think about when you get on a plane to go somewhere. Let's say that you board a plane in Nashville, Tennessee, and you're going to New York City. Well, if that pilot is just 2 or 3 degrees off track, you're going to end up in the ocean. That's a big difference. And so it's really important that we understand not only where we're going, but we make sure that we're on track to get there in any area of our lives, whether it's with your business, with your career, with your relationship, or even just in your own personal growth. So I want to give you 5 signs that you might be getting a little off track. These can be red flags. They can be markers that help you know, hey, I might need to make some adjustments to get back on track with where I want to be. The first sign is this. You feel checked in your spirit. You know that feeling, don't you? Like, it feels like this unsettling feeling. You've got a hunch, your intuition, you've got a feeling something doesn't feel right. I don't know. Can't put my finger on it. Can't really explain it, but it feels like something's not right. If it feels like something's not right, it's because it's not right. You don't have to be able to articulate it. You don't have to be able to explain it. If you have that check in your spirit, especially if you're a believer, this is God's way of guiding you. This is the Holy Spirit going, no, don't go that way. Hey, there's an obstacle down there. There's danger down there. There's something you want to avoid that way. And you can't see it now, but He's God and He can. And He's trying to protect you with that little check in your spirit. But even if you're not a believer, if you're not a person of faith, you might call this intuition. You might call this your conscience. You might call this that gut feeling. Whatever you call it, it doesn't really matter. It's there to protect you. So if you feel checked in your spirit, that's a sign you might be getting off track. Anytime in my life, I have not paid attention to that still small voice inside of me. Anytime that I've not paid attention to that check in my spirit, I've regretted it. Every single time. And I go back in hindsight, I go, oh, I had that feeling I shouldn't do that. I had that feeling I shouldn't go there. I had that feeling I shouldn't take that action, have that conversation, say that thing, whatever. But I didn't listen to it because I thought I knew better, because I didn't have an explanation or proof of why I shouldn't do it. And every single time I've regretted it. Even if it doesn't make sense, even if you can't see why. If you feel checked in your spirit, it's a sign you might be getting off track. The second sign you might be getting off track is similar, but a little bit different. You just feel anxious. You just feel nervous. Your chest is tight. Your shoulders are raised up, and you just have this anxiety in you. That is a sign that something is off. This is your body's response telling you that something is not right. We're going the wrong way. We're off track. Something is not right in your world. I love how Dr. John Deloney says it's your body's alarm system When your body is sounding the alarm, it's letting you know something's not right. You've got anxiety because you are pursuing this degree and it's not even really what you want to be doing. Or you're trying to keep up and keep this impression for this group of people because you want them to think that look a certain way, act a certain way, whatever. You're trying to put on this presentation and you've got anxiety about it because that's not really you. That's a sign that you're off track. Maybe in your career, you've got anxiety about something because you have to have a hard conversation and you just keep avoiding it. When there's a sense of anxiety, there's this tension in your spirit because something is going on. You've got to peel away the layers, get to the root of what's going on, and understand how to fix it at that root level. A lot of times, what we think is going on at the surface is not the actual issue. Usually it's something else below that we've got to look at and lean into in order to solve it there. So the first sign that you're off track is you feel checked in your spirit. The second sign that you might be off track is just an overall anxiety. You feel like something's not right because it's not right. The third sign that something is not right or you're getting off track is that people are concerned. Have you ever been in a situation where you just keep forging ahead? You are determined to go down this path and everyone around you, everyone that loves you is going, hey, that didn't feel right. Hey, that's not like you. Are you sure you want to do that? Does that make sense? Are you sure this is the next step you want to take? Everyone around you is concerned. Now, granted, I feel like I need to give a disclaimer here. There are times that God will call you out into a space, into a place, and only you understand what God is doing. And there are people around you that don't get it, but you have a certainty, a peace in your spirit that you are in God's will. That can happen. But often, God surrounds us with wise counsel. God surrounds us with community to let us know, yes, I'm going to affirm the direction you're going. And if everyone around you is raising their hand and throwing a flag going, that doesn't seem like you. If everyone around you is concerned, might be a sign that you're getting off track. I've been there. I've been there with career moves, with relationships, with just life decisions. And I have had friends go, hey, just a minute. Are you sure this is what you need to be doing? Pay attention if there's a theme in the people around you being concerned. The fourth sign that you might be getting off track is that you don't feel like yourself. You might be doing something, you're like, this isn't really me. This isn't in line with my values. This is not in line with my character. This is not in line with my strengths. And of course, often God will call us outside of our comfort zone and we need to grow and do it scared and all those things. But if you're just turning into a person that you don't recognize, if you're trying to be someone that you're not, that's a sign that you're off track. I have found in my life and in my coaching that God wants to maximize who you are, not change who you are. Who you are is created in His image. You are unique and you are wonderful as you are. But if you're turning into someone that you're not, turning into someone that you don't want to be, that doesn't even look like you, that's a sign you might be getting off track. And the fifth sign that you're getting off track is similar but a little different. You don't like who you are. Not only have you turned into someone that you don't recognize, but you don't even like who you are. This is a silly example, but years ago when my husband and I were dating, before we got married, we were in this running group, and this running group was training for the country music marathon, and they did their long training runs on Sunday mornings. And without thinking, I signed up because I wanted to train. I wanted to run this race, and this is when the group was running, and I wanted to run with them. And so after 3-4 weeks of going to these training runs on Sunday mornings, I realized I don't feel like myself. I don't even like myself. I'm not in church, which is important to me. Now, this wasn't about the legalistic, you've got to be in church to be a good person, be a good Christian. I was just taking actions that weren't in line with who I am or who I wanted to be. So if you look up one day and you don't feel like yourself, or maybe worse, don't like yourself, that's a sign you might be getting off track. These 5 signs are not a perfect formula that if you check this box, then you're definitely going the wrong direction, but look at them as indicators. Hey, let you look into what is going on in your life that might need to change. Maybe it becomes a new filter you put your decisions through and helps you make sure you're staying on the right track. Let's do a quick recap. Number 1, you feel a check in your spirit. Number 2, you feel anxious. Number 3, people around you are concerned. Number 4, you don't feel like yourself. And number 5, you don't like yourself. If any of these things are true of you and your situation, it might be a sign you're getting off track.
We were drawn to Christian healthcare ministries because we both had young families and we wanted to have more children. And we had also just started a real estate company and needed to find healthcare coverage that would meet our needs. We were attracted to CHM because of its low monthly costs and the ability to negotiate medical costs down.
Established in 1981 and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, CHM is here to meet the needs of your growing family or small business. Check us out at chministries.org.
We absolutely believe in it.
All right, y'all, I am so excited to tell you that our brand new 2022 goal planner is here. You have asked for it. You have told me how much you love it in past years, and y'all, it's finally here. This is your year. I know that it can be hard to set goals, and it's even harder to stick with those goals, and that's why this is the tool that's going to help you do it. You've got monthly encouragement, you've got monthly calendar, weekly calendar, to-do list, and it gives you everything you need to spend your time on what matters most to you, which is what I want to help you do in your one life. It's also gonna help you grow as a person and actually stick with your goals this year. Go to ChristyWright.com and get your goal planner today and really get it early, because I'm telling you, they sell out fast. All right, y'all, I'm so excited because I get to sit down with my very good friend in real life, best-selling author and founder of A21, Christine Caine. Christine, thanks for being here.
Hey, Christy, I'm pumped. Any excuse to talk to you.
Well, you know, one of the things that I love having you on the show, and you and I, we joked about this, but we could talk about anything. And I love watching your heart for building faith in people, and I've watched you do that. I've heard you give sermons on a variety of passages of scripture, or a variety of topics and aspects, but there is a common thread in everything that you do, and it's this thread of faith. I just really want to talk to you specifically about this new book, How Did I Get Here? Because I know that faith is such a piece of what you do. It's the foundation so much of what you do, and this message of people getting off track, of people wandering, of people feeling lost or stuck or far from God, is something that is so timely. Tell me, first of all, what's the backstory of this book that really lit a fire in you to want to talk about this specific thing?
I mean, there's a number. Obviously, what's happening in our world today. I mean, you know, Christy, one thing my dad told me, my dad used to take us swimming up in the north coast of Australia, my mum and dad. And they took us to this place that had this really big undertow, like a really bad rip. And they would always put a big beach umbrella up one end of the beach and, you know, some beach towels on the other end. And they would always say to us, kids, when you go out, make sure you check these markers really regularly. Look up and check your markers, because if you don't, you're not going to realize it. You're going to be having so much fun. Life's going to be awesome. You're out there swimming, but you will end up drifting out to sea because of the undertow, whether you feel it or not. And then my dad used to always say, kids, remember, all you have to do to drift is nothing. And he used to say that phrase, and it just really got into me that all any of us have to do to drift, whether it's in our faith, in our marriages, in our friendships, in our businesses. I mean, you go to any sphere of life, you don't even have to do something really bad to drift. Do nothing. And you will, it's as much what you don't do as what you do that will cause you to get off track in life. And so often we think drifting is that people have these really intentional things, and I'm going to get up, do something and walk away. But in my case, it wasn't that kind of drift. I had what I call like a perfect storm. And, you know, I had my 50th birthday. It was 2016. And I had I went out, celebrated, had a ball, came back and had 26 missed phone calls on my phone from my brother in Australia to tell me my mum had died that night. So I'm out having fun, celebrating. You know, it's like life. Best of times, worst of times, all at the same time, you know. In that same time, in a 3-month period, one of my husband's sisters died. My sister-in-law, my brother's wife, died my age. And one of my husband's brother-in-laws died, all our age, all in Australia. So a lot of back and forth for funerals. So there's a lot of grief happening. At the same time, because normally this is how things happen, all at the same time, a very close friend of mine, I felt really betrayed me. I just didn't see it coming the way that, and betrayals can come in lots of different ways, but I didn't see it coming. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, it would have been easy if it was my enemy that was against me. But when it was my friend that I used to go to, I mean, it just changes everything when it's someone that's really close to you. And then, I don't know if you remember, Christy, 2016 was a bit of a volatile time, 2017, especially living here in North America. There was just so much going on in every sphere of life. And if you're any kind of public figure, You may as well have a target on your head. I remember I woke up every morning saying to my husband, I don't know who I'm going to disappoint today, because no matter what I say, or if I say nothing, some people are going to think you should be saying something about this. Other people, you shouldn't be saying anything about this. I said, I can't win. You just kind of feel like, are you kidding me? Right. Suddenly everyone wanted me to be a world expert on every political issue, immigration issue. I mean, I'm not an expert. I just want to tell people you can do it, and suddenly so there was a lot of factors. I mean, I'm laughing now, but it was intense. Let me just say at the time. And there was one night I came home. Nick was watching a show on the Navy SEALs called Hell Week, just about that Hell Week, that to become a SEAL. And the whole goal, man, is that they break you down mentally, physically, emotionally. So you ring the bell and go, I'm tapping out. I'm just not going to be a SEAL. And there was this scene, they dropped the guys out of the helicopter into the ocean, had to swim miles to shore. They hadn't slept or eaten for the week. And I start crying, which, if you know me at all, I'm not going to normally cry out of guys being dropped out of a helicopter. Yeah. My husband's like, Christine, what is up with you? I'm bawling. I said, this is how I feel. I said, I feel like, I've always said, we are the Navy SEALs, say, in the work that I do. We're rescuing slaves for human trafficking. We're empowering women around the world with Propel. I mean, I've always felt like we're on the front lines. Let's go do it. I said, I feel like the Lord's dropped me out of the helicopter into the ocean, and I have to swim to shore and complete an assignment. And I know I can do it. It's not that I've got the muscle memory. I got the tenacity. I know I can. And I'm bawling my eyes out, Christy. And I said, but for the first time in 33 years, I don't know if I want to. And those words had never come out of my mouth. I've always thought, I don't know if I can. I'm not smart enough. I've never said, I don't know if I want to. And I was crying and I said, there's so little discernment out there that I've got so much momentum from 30 odd years of all the work that I've done, that as long as I don't do anything really stupid, nobody's even going to notice. Nobody's going to notice that I've taken my foot off the gas. And I was crying and I said to Nick, nobody would notice. And then I went to him, but Jesus would. And it was that moment when I said, the fact that I got to a point where my drifting was not that, I'm going to go and, leave. It was more, I'm going to take my foot off the gas. I'm not going to be all in it's too costly to be all in. And I'm in my 50s. I can just cruise based on what I've done. But the decision was, are you going to drift from your purpose, Christine? Because it doesn't mean you have to go do anything bad. It just means you're not going to do everything that you're supposed to do. And so there's a subtlety. So for me, and I turned to my husband that night and I went, how did I get here? That was where I go, how did I get here? That I, who has always been on the cutting edge, would think, might just take my foot off the gas and cruise the rest of, play it safe, don't take any risks. All the things I tell everyone else to do, I sort of thought, I'm in my 50s now, I can just chill. So that is the backstory. Then, of course, I'm just seeing in so many cases people drifting relationally, marriages drifting, just families, and so much happening in the public space that I thought, okay, I think I can speak into that because I know what it feels like to maybe take your foot off the gas, drift from your purpose, even if I didn't drift from I'm walking out of it totally. So that's kind of the story behind it.
Well, and I'm curious, what comes to mind even as you're talking is I'm thinking there are people listening to this and they're thinking, how do I know if I'm drifting? I'm busy. I've got a family. I've got a career. I've got a business. I'm involved in my church. I'm doing all the right things. I'm checking all the right boxes. I'm not doing anything wrong, to your point. I'm not having these major sins. I'm not having an affair. I'm not stealing from my work. Give us some kind of direction here of hey, here's some clues or cues, just to pay attention, to check, to get back in line and know if you are, or what that even looks like. How, because I imagine people are thinking that. How do I know if I'm drifting?
Sure. And that's what I really unpacked in the 9 chapters in the book, from a faith perspective, going, okay, it's so subtle. So we all know the obvious drift. I mean, you see, someone's posting something on Instagram and they're like, I'm walking out of this, I'm leaving my faith, or I'm leaving my job, or whatever it might be. That by the time you've done that, The drift already started. I mean, a lot of us are going, oh, how could that person? And I'm like, no, the drifting started way before.
Right.
It's just that now they're out to sea. They didn't check. So we, especially in this time, Christy, where things are so volatile in every sphere of life, if we are not checking our markers every single day, whether we realize it or not, we will drift, because the currents of society have changed, even in the last 3 years, from what society was like to what it is now, morally, ethically, sociologically, environmentally. I mean, every realm of life, you're like, politically, you're just like, what has happened? Everyone feels like they've got whiplash because the currents have shifted. So we go, what are my markers that I need to check? And I've written some down. I said, it's when you stop trusting and you start controlling. So it's an inner anxiety where you're no longer truly trusting the plan of God to unfold in your life, man. You are going to start controlling everything. You go, you know what, God, I think I could do a better job than you. And you don't realize, and I've certainly unpacked, what does that look like? Because it looks different for everyone. But it's like, where am I truly not trusting God with my future? Where am I trying to control the outcome? Whether it's with my kids, my marriage, my friendships, my job, whatever it might be, there's a fine line. And if you go from trust to control, you are going to burn out. You're going to drift, because none of us can sustain a supernatural purpose in our own strength. We actually really can't. Another one I wrote was, when you stop healing, you've drifted when you stop healing and you start seeping. I think a lot of what we're seeing out there in the public sphere, especially on social media, is a lot of people just seeping out of their woundedness. So the bitterness and the anger and the unforgiveness, and you see so much divisiveness and chaos, and you go, what is happening? And we are no longer going to God for healing. We're kind of justifying our brokenness and just kind of seeping off right around. I mean, it starts in your home with your relationships, but it certainly shows itself, I think, in the public sphere. I've got when there's a whole bunch of different ones, but it's like when you stop praying and you start talking to everyone else. When you are more concerned with talking to everyone else about what's going on than saying, you know what, I'm going to go shut myself in the prayer closet, and God and I are going to talk about this stuff. I've got so many, when you just start watching and you stop working. And what I mean by that is, like, you're no longer in the field. You get up in the grandstands, and at the moment when you look at things out there, there's a lot of critics. I mean, critics are great in the grandstands. I mean, no critic on television that's a critic of a game or a movie they're not acting in it, or they're not playing in the football field, man. Their whole job is professionally to critique the people that are doing it. And I'm like, you've drifted when you're no longer running in your lane, but boy, you've got opinions about how everybody else should be running in their lane. So I think there's like subtle signs.
Yeah, even as you were talking, that first example of you stop trusting and you start controlling, man, that just hits home with me, because I feel like one of the things that I've always so closely identified is in Genesis, in the garden, when the serpent says, "Did God really say?" Yeah. And it's just seed of doubt where Eve's like, I got this. I can take matters into my own hands. And that is my Achilles heel every single step of my journey in my life. You'd think I'd stop falling for it, Christine, and I don't. I'm like, oh, I got this. I can do this better. I have better plans. I'm a doer. I can make things happen. And I just love that reminder, because even that first one, I was like, yeah, because God will often show me just enough light for the next step, but I want to take 20 steps in advance. And he doesn't show me that. He just shows me what's right in front of me. I've used the seminary example, but I've even told people, really honestly, I don't know what God's going to do with this. I just know that today I'm supposed to be in this class, and that's as far as I can see. But if we're not careful, we want to take matters into our own hands. It's that whisper, again, from the enemy of going, did God really say? Planting that doubt that's eroding the trust that drives us to control, and ultimately that is going to lead to disappointment. I love even just that first one. I was like, yeah, man, that hits home with me. Christine, I know you walk through this whole framework in the book, and people are listening, but what I love most about, even as you talk about the heart behind it, this book, it's not for someone that's just has these major sins. It's not for this person that's like completely fallen off the wagon. They've abandoned the faith. This is for any of us that are drifting. That visual of the example on the beach, I'm like, ooh, we're all guilty of that. of just not swimming, not doing anything, and letting the current
and
pull
in
us.
this particular time, I mean, we've come through just so much upheaval in the last 5 years here for the people that are watching from America, but the whole planet, no matter where you're watching this from, the last 18 months, everything has so dramatically shifted. And people, everyone, you're kind of feeling what is going on. The world is not the world that we once knew, and it won't be again. So you've got to have some markers. And the tendency now, and I think the biggest lie of the enemy, is to make us all pull back and not. The purpose of God for our lives hasn't changed just because the world has changed. So our thing is now, do I continue to press on and say, I'm 55 now. So what I decided to do during the pandemic was I climbed every mountain in Southern California because I'm like, since I cannot get on a plane and go overseas, I'm not pulling back. I had to find my whole physicality, my whole body had to do something to go, don't pull back and don't stop. Now, of course, things get rearranged in your life, but that sense, the enemy, if he can't get you, he's going to try to get your purpose, because on the other side of you fulfilling your purpose is all the people that you're going to impact. So if he can just get you to chill out, doesn't have to get you to do anything really bad, but just pause, stop, slow down. And people are always saying to me, Chris, it's what you said, your message is a faith message. Well, I love that because the Bible says that without faith, it's impossible to please God. But a lack of faith is that I would stop prematurely and just live a comfortable life because I could think, well, I've done a lot of good things. People are going to say nice things about me. This is like, that's all great. But that's not what God called me to. So the fight of faith in our life to the very end, Paul says, I have run my race and finished my course. So for me, I'm a bit older than you. The finish line is closer than the starting line. So you're more motivated in your 20s and 30s. Your life is before you. You're like, come on, I want to go change the world. And I've got time to do it. At my stage of life, you normally get to one of two things, either regret, like, wow, women feel like I've wasted my life, I should have done more. And I want to inspire them and go, it's never too late.
Right.
You have never drifted too far from the purpose of God. So I want those women to be motivated. And you spend so much of your life doing that too. Come on, your second half can be your best half if you want it to be. But the other temptation is comfort, security of just like, well, I've worked hard. I've gone hard in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, and I'm going to eat the fruit of my labors, which is a good thing. I have no problem with anyone doing that, but it's not like settling is different to enjoying the fruitfulness of your life. And I want people, Jesus said, I came that you might have life and life more abundant. So I unapologetically want people to, to flourish in life and thrive. But a part of that is to continue to be a blessing. So when you get to my age, I'm in my mid-50s, and some people will be like, well, don't you think you've done enough? Don't you? Well, that's what people could think. But I've got to go back to God and go, am I done?
Right.
I'm figuring if I was done, I'd be on the other side of eternity. So I figured that the fact that I woke up this morning and there was not a white chalk mark around my body, it meant that God's still got a purpose, God's still got a plan. And then I've got, why do I need to breathe the oxygen if there's nothing for me to do? But the temptation is, if you've had a degree of success too, and I think there's two sides to it, that you would settle for comfort, for convenience, and for security. And at that point, you're no longer in faith. You're just like kind of like, I'm controlling. My life's really good. And I think for a lot of women, you can get to that place. So for me to go at 55, a kid in college, a sophomore in high school, 25 years married, a successful ministry, and stop and go, here we go again. Okay. Yes, let's be all in again. Let's risk it again because I'm not done. And what the Lord has me on the planet to do. So am I going to drift from my purpose? So not just drift from a morally good lifestyle, but am I going to drift from my purpose?
Well, and I love how you paint the picture too in the book of the cost if you do, like the people that you're going that God wants to use you in their life. And man, it just brings back to front and center the importance of it. And so whether someone is listening to this and they're feeling like, man, I'm realizing I've been drifting because I've been a workaholic, or I've been drifting because I've been a people pleaser doing what everybody else wants me to do, all those critics trying to make them happy in the stands instead of what God has for me, or because I've been drifting because, gosh, I just got kind of comfortable, or maybe I've drifted from the faith because I just feel distant from God. Whatever the kind of different different scenarios is I just love this reminder that you are pulling people back into their purpose. You're bringing it front and center and just realigning their focus on it. And I just think God is going to use that in such a powerful way, Christine. He always does. He always uses you in such a powerful way. And it is just incredible to watch. It's incredible to have a front row seat. You have done such amazing thing with Propel Women, with A21, with all the books that you write and the things that you do. But my thing that I'm just so grateful for is your friendship. So thank you. Thanks for teaching us today. Tell everybody where they can follow you and get a copy of How Did I Get Here?
Oh, I'm on all the things, or mostly Instagram is where I mostly live,
Sure.
But you can find everything on ChristineCaine.com. And I love you. I thank God for everything that you're doing, Christy.
Oh, you're amazing. Thanks, Christine. Hey, y'all, listen. I know it is so easy to feel overcommitted and overwhelmed. I have been there many times. In fact, that is exactly why I wrote my new book, Take Back Your Time, The Guilt-Free Guide to Life Balance. Because you know what? I don't believe life balance is just something you do. I believe it's something you create where you can have balance even in your busy life. In this book, I give you 5 practical, tactical steps that you can take to create your version of balance so you can shake the guilt and actually enjoy your life right now. Go to ChristyWright.com and go ahead and get your copy of Take Back Your Time, The Guilt-Free Guide to Life Balance today. All right, y'all, it is time to take your calls, and we're going to go to Columbia, Missouri with Ashley. Hey, Ashley, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, what's going on?
Okay, so I am a single mom here in Columbia, Missouri, the state. So I've got all the responsibility with my 2 kids, all their activities at school, things like that. But on top of that, I'm also the head of a department for a mortgage company here, which also comes with its own full set of responsibilities and projects that I'm responsible for that sometimes keep me up until 10, 11 o'clock at night, depending on when I leave the office, leave to go do things for kids, things like that. And I am struggling to balance all of that, to keep caught up. I'm behind at work. I feel like I'm behind with my kids. Like, I'm behind everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm just struggling to try to fit everything in and still maintain a good relationship with my kids, but also keep my job at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. How old are your kids?
I have a 13-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Okay. All right. And do you have any help? Is there dad in the picture? Do you have any other type of childcare? What does that look like?
Yeah, he's in the picture, and he helps a little bit when he can. He also has a full-time job as well.
Right.
But I have the kids the majority of the time. And then childcare, my daughter goes to an after-school program. My son comes home. He's 13. He come home. But that's what that looks like.
Gotcha. I saw a quote on Instagram a long time ago, and it just, I think, rings true for so many people. And it said this: we expect women to work like they don't have children and raise children like they don't work. And I think we all feel that in some capacity, but you feel it more, Ashley, and you feel it because you're working after traditional hours, and that is making you feel like it is invading your life, because it is, and because you're a single mom. And so you are carrying so much more of the load than someone else is who's splitting the responsibilities more evenly. Here, let's get tactical with this a little bit. I want to get tactical, and then I want to talk about the more emotional side of it that you have more control over than you realize. But let's talk about the tactical. What would it look like to, or is it possible, you tell me, to set some boundaries around those working hours, to communicate what your capacities are and say, hey, like, I can't take any more on my plate. I'm going to need some help. Like, I think that a lot of times jobs can just burn you out because they're just going to give you as much as you're willing to take until you throw a flag. So what options do you have there, if any?
I think I have probably more options than I take advantage of there. I will say my company's been fantastic for all of this, and they're trying to help. So I think I have options there. If I put my foot down, I don't even think it would require putting my foot down. If I just tell them I can't do this.
Yeah. How long have you been there?
Almost 9 years.
Okay, so you've got a good relationship there, Ashley. They
good.
know you, they love you, they want to take care of you, and sometimes, I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes we just want to be the hero. We don't want to ask for help. We're like, I can do it all. Yes, I can do it all. I can be a mom and do the job and do the after art. Yes, I can. And the reality is we just don't need to try to be the hero because the only person suffering is you. You know what I mean? Like you're the one suffering. Your job is never going to say, hey, you should slow down. You should take on less work. You should have some boundaries and be off at 5 o'clock. They're never going to do that. No company ever would, by the way. They're going to give you as much as you're willing to take. So the first tactical is that job piece of what would it look like to give you some off time where you're off and you're really off. You're able to shut it down, be present with your kids, enjoy your life, be present, and not feel like you're always having to be on and available. I think that's a huge step because you're not a doctor that's on call 24/7, so you shouldn't have to live like that, if at all possible within, reason at your job, with your team, with your leaders, and so on. So I think the first tactical step is for you to communicate that to them. Say, hey, I'm feeling the strain of this after hours. The projects are more than I can keep up with in working hours, and I think we need to pull back my workload to what I can actually accomplish in working hours so that I can be off at the end of the day. I think that's the first tactical. The second piece of it is I don't know, let me think about how to say this. I would think about what is the time with your kids that is the most valuable to you, highest quality, most life-giving, best bonding. Like, think through that. If you're like me, at least, running my kids from one errand to the next is not life-giving. Like, it's just going through the motions. So what I think may be good, while some things we have to do, we have to run the errands, we have to keep all that going. You may be doing a lot of that, but not feeling like, gosh, I don't have any good time with my kids. What would it look like to carve out, block, plan good time with your kids? Where you're like, hey, we're going to swing through Subway, grab a sandwich, go have a picnic at the park, and just hang out together. Or we're going to fill in the blank with whatever's fun to you. Where you begin to block time on your calendar for family fun, good quality time, and then you feel like you're actually getting to experience your kids. So on the tactical work side, I think there's a piece of it of setting boundaries, offloading some of these projects, setting some boundaries around your work hours, getting help, whatever that looks like. And then in family time, I think that for you to create actual quality time that makes you feel filled up with them and bonded with them is going to help relieve some of that. Now that we've covered the tactical, I want to cover the emotional piece of it, okay? I found in my life, and this was years ago, Ashley, I found that so much of my guilt came from focusing on where I was not. So when I was at work, I was thinking about my kids. Are they okay? Did I miss field day? Did I forget their snack? Am I a bad mom? Are they sick? Do they need me? Then I would go home and I would open my computer and check my phone and scroll social media and keep up with emails and, oh, I forgot that project and, oh, I need to respond to that meeting request and, oh, I need to have that conversation with that person. I was always thinking about work. So when I was at home, I was thinking about work. When I was at work, I was thinking about home. I was always focused on where I was not. So let's acknowledge that if you live your whole life this way, of course you feel guilty. Of course you feel like you're failing because you're only and always focusing on where you're not. So the emotional piece of this, the mental piece of this that you are in control of, Ashley, is flipping your focus. And as ruthless as this seems, I do this. I flip a switch in my mind. When I drive out of my driveway, I flip a switch and go, I'm in work mode. And that allows me to focus on what is in front of me. When I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm at home, I'm at home. Where you can be where your feet are. Wherever you are, be there. Focus on what's in front of you, but it's not going to just help you focus on what's in front of you. Be productive, be efficient, be present, be proud. It is going to help you shake the guilt for where you're not. Right now, I'm on this call with you, Ashley. I have no idea what my kids are doing. I'm sure they're fine. I've got them taken care of. They've got school. They've got activities. We've got help. My husband's, they're doing something just like you. When you're at work, your kids are at school, your kids are in aftercare, your kids are taken care of. So I just want to give you permission to flip your focus. Instead of living your whole life looking through the rearview mirror of what you're leaving behind, I want you to flip your focus and look through the front windshield of where you are. Wherever you are, be there. And that simple practice, and it's a practice. It's something you have to do again and again and again and remind yourself of. Flip your focus to be where you are. The more that you do that, the more you will shake the guilt because you're no longer focusing on where you're not and what you're not doing and what you're not getting to on your to-do list. You're going to focus on where you are and what you are doing. I am so excited to be on this call with you. You're going to focus on your to-do list of the things you did do, not the things you didn't get to. You're going to focus on what you're doing right, not what you perceive you're doing wrong. And so that simple mental flip of your focus, I think, will help you in addition to the tactical. But I just want to encourage you, and this is the last thing I'll say, Ashley. I'll try not to go on my soapbox about this. I am the child of a single mom. And so often growing up, I know that she felt guilty. Felt guilty because she felt like she couldn't do enough, or she was working, or this, that, and the other. I was with her early mornings when we'd go to the cake shop for her to bake. I remember getting a flat tire in the rain. I remember all these less than Pinterest perfect moments in my childhood. And while those were moments that she probably felt guilty about at the time, I want you to know that me, now being a grown woman, child of a single mom, I did not make it in life despite the struggle. I made it because of it. I am who I am because of my mother. And she's my hero. And you're going to be your kid's hero. And you're doing a whole lot better than you think you are. They're going to remember the good. They're going to remember what a fighter you are. They're going to remember how you took care of them, how you showed up, how you worked so hard. That's what they're going to remember. And so if they are going to focus on that, maybe not now, they will later for sure. If they're going to focus on that, you have permission to focus on that too. You're doing better than you think. Thanks so much for calling, and I hope this helps, and I hope those tactical steps help relieve some of the pressure you've been feeling so you can take a deep breath in your busy life. Thanks for calling, Ashley. All right, y'all, I love hanging out with you. I love hearing your stories, answering your questions, and taking your calls. Of course, you can tune in next week for another new episode of The Christy Wright Show. And as always, for more encouragement on becoming the person you want to be, you can visit ChristyWright.com.